In this lesson, I want to show you something that you're really going to use a lot in web design. Now, we've been working a lot in the Files panel, and it gives us all the files in the active site. But you have another panel that you're going to use a whole lot, and it's called Assets. Now, to get to it, all we have to do is click here. But what I want to do is show you something more than just our simple site right now. So I'm going to change from main site right here into Andy's site, which is a bigger site. Got more stuff in it, if you will. If I go into files, I've got access to all my files. If I go into assets, let me go ahead and pull this out here. Separate it out, make it a little bit wider, just like that. When you're working with assets, what you're working with is you're separating things out to make it easier to get to them. For example, up here, the first button is actually for your images. And here are all my images. Now I can click here, make that area a little bit bigger. You sacrifice in one area to make another area a little bit bigger. And you've got all these different images. These are images that are on this particular website that I'm working on. Now the cool thing about working in assets, for example, if I come over here and double click on Mr. Lion, watch what happens. It takes me into Adobe Photoshop. At this point, I could make changes to the image, modify it, turn it into a grayscale image, whatever. And when I save it and come back, it's already applied if it's being used on a web page. I like that. Let me go ahead and get out of here. Go back to Dreamweaver. You do have something else going on here. Now, there is a lot of stuff on this website, not including the stuff we're going to talk about over here in a second. But you also have something called favorites. Now, you notice I don't have any favorites. What's a favorite? You're working on your website. And on your website, there's a certain image, say for example, that you put on each one of the pages. Maybe it's part of the heading, and you use it all the time. So you come into here, and you scroll down, and you eventually get to that image. And you go, oh, that's the one right there. Well, if you click down here on this button, it adds it to something called your favorites. I click OK. The next time I'm looking for that or any other images, I can click on favorites, and they'll be there. So you're losing the clutter of everything and putting them in one specific place. Let's go back into image site here, the whole thing. The next one down is nice too. It's the colors I'm using on this particular site. You say, well, it's kind of nice, but why? Well, think of it this way. You've worked on one page. This is the color you use, say, for the background. So you're in the background area and you go, what was that color? I got it written down somewhere. No, you just come here. Now, we haven't gotten to things like changing a background color, but it would be as simple as dragging that color over and boom, you've got it. Instant gratification. Now, how did these get here? They get there as you work on the site, create colors, and save them, and they get moved into this color area automatically. Here's another one, URLs. I need to make a link to that same site that I used on another page. I got it written down somewhere. No, it's right here, and all you'd have to do is drag it over to create the link. Now, there's more to this than that. We're just getting started. You have an option here for your media, like movies and things like that. Now, if I double-click on, say, Color MOV, what's it going to open it in? Now, if I double-click on an image, by default, it goes to Adobe Photoshop. Can I change that? I don't have Photoshop, Andy. I've got Corel Painter. Well, you do it this way. If you're on a Mac, go to Dreamweaver CC. If you're in Windows, go to Edit and go to Preferences. In Preferences, go to File Types and Editors, and you will see all the different things right here. Now, if I say for an MOV file, you can see there is no editor for that. What I can do is click the plus sign and find a movie editor. It could even be, I suppose, QuickTime if you wanted to use that. But if I go back to things like PNGs, Adobe Photoshop, that's the default. Notice you also have the ability to make one of them the primary, which means when you double click, that's the one it's going to go to. If you right click, you'd get a choice between all the different editors. So you can choose which ones you use when you double click. Let me go ahead and get out of here. Down here, we have scripts. Now, we haven't gotten into scripts yet. We're going to talk about those a little bit. And scripts are pieces of code that we can use to control things on our website. You can add them in here. Now, the beauty of adding them in here when you're working is if you make a change to the script here, it impacts everywhere else it was used. Next one down, templates. Now, we haven't done templates yet, but we are going to talk about them. And the last one right down here is the library. Now, the library allows you to create things on a web page, drag them into the library, and anytime you need it, you can drag it back out again. And the cool thing is, if you change it in the library, it will change it everywhere else it's used. The Files panel, love it. Makes it easy to get to your stuff. You can double click on, say, for example, an HTML file and open it directly, start working on it. The Assets panel takes care of everything else for you, and it organizes it. Those two, to me, the Files and the Assets panels, are two of the most highly used panels inside of Dreamweaver. Let me go ahead and drag this back over here. Now, I'm waiting for it to turn blue like that. I can let go and it puts it back there. And let's go ahead and move on.